Tes. Cek. Cek satu.
Oke, Pak.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, everyone, and welcome to our 2 days program on the international workshops on the principles and practices of research in agriculture. Terima kasih atas kehadiran teman-teman, Bapak, Ibu, serta adik-adik mahasiswa. Pada kesempatan kali ini kita akan mendengarkan penyampaian materi baru tentang bagaimana prinsip-prinsip dan kegiatan-kegiatan riset di dalam bidang pertanian. So we are delighted to have our guest lecturer, Prof. Zlatko Svenjak, with us today to share his insights about the critical thinking in agricultural research. So before we begin, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Maulana. I am a lecturer from Social Science Department. Yes. And I will be very excited to moderating today's discussions. So just for a short brief about Professor Zlatko. He is a professor from University of Zagreb, Croatia. His specialty is he is coming from plant science department, Prof. And he's focusing on sustainable crop system. So I hope we can get a new insight from his presentations later on. So before further ado, I am delighted to invite Prof. Zlatko and to please start the seminar. And time is yours, Prof.
Thank you very much. Salam alaikum to all of you and good morning. I'm happy to be today with you to try to share some of my experience of my past work related to the research and education. As you may see from the title, the topic is mainly related to the research. It's a little bit, how to say, accumulated knowledge of my previous experience, and it was designed originally, I have to say, to have some experience in any type of the research, because research work is something like you should be prepared at the undergraduate and some graduate level, but not in all like higher education system you get this knowledge or skills or competencies to carry it out. So just a few words also about me, and so I'm coming from University of Zagreb. I conducted a lot of experiments, but mostly my experiments were at the field level. Field level, which is on the field level, you have many factors that you cannot actually control, and which is not something you are fond of in any type of research of any uncontrolled factors. So this workshop was generally intended for like young researchers, and I see that some of you like maybe are still like students, so at the master level, and maybe you will feel a bit uncomfortable with this topic. I notice also. I kindly apologize to all of you that maybe for some reason you will find it a little bit difficult to follow, or maybe not so much of your interest, primary interest. So I kindly apologize for that. Because this is not a typical lecture, like where you just get information which you have to either remember, reproduce, or. So I will try to make the best of it, and I kindly invite you to, at any time point, to stop me and to maybe make some comments or ask any question or or anything related to the subject taught. So as you see from the title, principles and practice, so that means fundamentals and what is called the practice, you understand, of the research in agriculture. Because agriculture research is actually, I have to say, one of the most demanding research in any, how to say, disciplines or area of science, especially at the field level. So this workshop was intended for young people, young researchers, to become like, I was introduced to become more like a good or better researcher from the very beginning. Because if you don't get the principles at the very beginning, it's very hard to get them later in your, in your career or in your stage of the life. So I will just stand up to make it more, even for me, more like easily, and maybe to interact more with you. Did I? I didn't notice that it's okay. Sorry. Should I? So very simple research, it's an area, because when you are still like just a student, you don't actually analyze, you don't much critically think about the information you get from your professors or from your lecturers on anything, because you consider this as a standard or valuable or truthful information. So in research as an activity, as an area, there are like some fundamentals. And these fundamentals are very simple, like in everyday's life. We ask what, how, and the most important research, which is not actually important in everyday's life, why. For example, if you go, like yesterday, Professor Janssen took me for a late dinner, and I go for dinner and I choose my dinner according to my taste, whether I like it or I don't like it, and I never ask myself why. I will not ask myself why I have a preference for some taste, whether I like it this way or that way, because it's not important. It's simply I like it that way. So in research, it's very much different, because research is something which is not really related to your everyday life. Research is something where you are intellectually engaged, and you question, or you evaluate, you analyze, you think about all important aspects. So it's really a different light. So outside of the research as an area of activity which is usually related to universities and institutes or some other research institution, we don't have much opportunity in our everyday life to improve ourselves, to become like a better researcher. Not really. Nothing in your everyday life actually helps you much about that. So that was like, as you may see from this slide, it was originally intended to a little bit more, I could say more advanced, for most of you, more advanced, how to say, students, still students, because that's the most important period of your life, to be a student. Even at this level, undergraduate, graduate, or postgraduate, or some Master of Science or PhD like that. It's very important for you to become positively, critically, how to say, positioned, or to develop this capability actually to critically think about all the information you get from the different sources. Because when I was your age, I had another problem to become a good researcher. to become a good researcher when I was your age, could you imagine what was the biggest challenge and issue? It wasn't, so imagine this, when I was your age, if I gave the presentation like this, it wouldn't really matter to me much. Because when I was a student like you, the biggest issue was actually just a source of information. So if I want to find out about something, whatever related to, we have to talk about agriculture. If I want to find out anything about agriculture, like that was about when I was a student, like 40 years ago. So there was not really internet, nothing. Just printed material, just standard textbooks. So whatever I do, I lost majority of the bulk of my time. I just lost to get some information about some specific subject area. And today you are so happy, you are so blessed that whatever you do, even now when I'm talking, you can Google it. You can critically think about me, what does he talk about? You can check my origin. You can check my, many like skills, qualifications, and whatever. So it changed a lot. So today I have to say you should be at least twice better researcher than I was at your age. But, and just to like going toward the finish of this a little bit introduction, I actually started to make or to have this presentation because I recognized one of the biggest issues at my university, that the students actually, the quality of research of students at my university in the last 20 or 30 years was actually decreasing on average. Not increasing, even though today is much easier to be anything, also including research. And why was that? Because you will see, maybe you will notice, because today becomes a little bit more tricky how to evaluate the information you receive, because today there are so many information about almost everything, and sometimes you will get a little bit, how to say, conflicting information about the same or specific subject matter. When I ask you, for example, like very simple question, what do you think is important? What skill, what qualification, what competencies is important that you become a good researcher? What is a researcher actually? A person who conducts research. Or what is research? Like what do I need to be? What skills? Like satisfactory level of intelligence, or like, but it's not an issue really. So anybody of you could become a good researcher. Everybody actually. And what does it matter? Why? Like, so in general, so this is the idea that you, whatever you plan to do, it's good to do some research work. Research work means, you will see very similar. For example, when I was a student, at the second year of my study, undergrad student, I tried to realize what is the best method for the learning process. What is the best method for the learning process? Because I have to learn many information by heart, just to know to reproduce and like that. In which direction? So just to give you, this is one psychologist, doesn't matter, but when you think about like knowledge or information, which is important, like we always relate knowledge to intelligence a little bit, it's not always correlated, But just have a look on this. These are different levels of education. Okay, but it's very small. And it's quite nice because it explains complexity. It's not really complex, but my education was just this. Nothing else. Not really. I could say okay, there was some understanding and applying, but 95% was just remembering and reproducing the information when I get to the exam, whatever. So if you ask me now, for the most information I learned as a student, I don't remember because it's not in the long-term memory, it was in the short-term memory. And you see, these levels, it's psychologist. It was not related even to the university level, but he realized, okay, these 3 levels, we all will experience in our life. Everybody will understand something about some specific subject matter, and it will apply in your life. Anything, something knowledge about how to, let's say, plant. You have to plant something in some type of the soil or in some specific period of year or what, and we will apply that. But then come different levels of knowledge, which is called, you see, the top. It's like analyze, creating something, and it's a kind of difficult, because why? It's depending on the sources or information or experience you have before. So it's to get to those levels, you will only, I have to point out, actually university education is the last step of the formal education process. There you can really experience this level of analyzing, evaluating, and creating to come with some new ideas about anything, like any specific point in your life. So this is very useful in life, remembering any information. When farmers ask you how much, I don't know, how much seeds I have to grow, how much fertilizer, whatever, you just remember, you say. This is like a knowledge. Then you can also implement and apply, understand. But actually, why is that level, creating, evaluating, and analyzing? Because if you come to the new situation or new condition. For example, when I was a student, it was very simple. That was my first embarrassment in life. I was a good student. I was, not to say like the best student. And I learned something about production of some crop. It doesn't matter. I learned one information that, let's say, if I just write it down, I learned, it doesn't matter the information, I learned by heart. And it was actually applied, I understand that. And if you grow some crop in my country, you need to seed about 700 seeds. It doesn't matter what is this, but by square meter, whatever, of some crop. And it was okay, and then I went to another country, which I consider very similar to my country, but there was a change. Something changed, and I didn't think so much about that. It wasn't a big change, but there was a change, and I had to organize some small, very simple experiment, and I organized it, and I put this number, and I never forget that I was so much embarrassed in my life that they didn't treat me really well. They just, when they had a look at the number, they just had a good laugh, because the number which was needed, which was optimum. In my country, this was the optimum. In that country, the optimum was large difference, just 200. And they thought of me like, what kind of knowledge I have? Because I have some understanding and I know how to apply, but the borders of my knowledge or understanding were just within some limits. So there are still so many things in agriculture we don't know. So many important things, but we should try to understand always, how to say, the principles behind the information we receive, whatever. You are very blessed that you live under, how to say, tropical agriculture, and during the year you just mainly get variation in the rain usually, and some other factors. Okay, the amount of solar radiation, because rain, like you have more clouds, whatever. But if you live like in the environment with large change, like large changes in the weather conditions, whatever, everything changed. So I just want to give you the impression, like whatever you know, like me, when I come from the Europe, whatever I know about the agriculture production, I don't know much when I came here about this specific topic. So just to finish with this, like those levels at the top, as you may see, they are actually, and how to develop them, how to become, how to say, more critical thinker in your life, but just always positive. Why it's important to become critical thinker? Why? Very simple, not to be wrong about anything. Because you could have opinion, or what, like sometimes you would even consider knowledge about something, but that knowledge maybe it's not completely true, or then it doesn't offer you the complete understanding. So just to give you the idea how in this human civilization with agriculture and everything, it very much influenced our history and life. And this is a good example because this is also Ukraine, which is, now it's a genocide. In most of the parliament of European countries, it was like genocide. At one point, there was such a shortage of food. It's not, of course, well documented how many people died, but there was a shortage of food. And it's always a problem when you have any society, anything, when you have a shortage of food, there is always, how to say, unrest. There is always some problems with the society. So we also heard about other examples when there was a large migration of the people just because of the, of the food scarcity and like that. So agriculture was always important in the human history, just to produce this food so that people could have the basic necessities of their life. You see how many people died, like for many, like even in Europe, like we also like shortages of food, or Irish people or like that. I just wanted to relate it more to your history, because this is a photo, as you may see, like in Batavia and like Jakarta, when, like this is from prison, but when I was a student, that was one of the best examples in my chemistry class. We got this example of beriberi disease, and you probably heard, and you all know about this because it's related to this area, how, like, the origin. So I just want to show you, like, a little bit how it develops the understanding, because this beriberi disease was probably present, what? We don't know, like maybe a few thousand years But the first, like now I start some record here, you know, the photo is from, this photo is from, like you see, late 19th century, just 140 years ago. The problem was present, you know, we don't know from the, like, what, but we start to experience this problem. And you know, what we are interested in now, when we think or study, we want information, you know, like how it was, how you get to know what happened in the, like in the history, what really happened. So you see, like there was some written record, you know, important to us, which is important to us. So, and you see the first publication about this disease, beriberi, here, like published in the late 19th century from some Japanese author about, you know, there's a problem, some problem which is important, which affects people, and we don't know nothing about that. So that's how, like, and then, you know, I'm sorry, now I get, and how many, I cannot read that paper. That paper is written in Japanese. So if I want to find out the information, still I have a problem. I'm interested, what is in that paper, how they were sailing, on which direction, how many people, what were the symptoms. I'm really interested, but I cannot read. Google can translate now a little bit, you know, because it's not translated in English. Nobody's translating this old paper. So you see, the first problem in our life, like maybe for some of you now, maybe the language barrier. So I cannot really understand, I cannot really communicate, I cannot get any idea from the lecturer what he's really trying to point it out. And we are talking like in like the source of information as important. And then you could have a read. And the story is quite interesting because in the research and science, they try to find out what was the problem, what was the cause for that disease at that time. So we are talking about late 19th century. And here you can see that even at that time, there were people who tried to do research. They tried to find out what was the cause of that disease. And this is a good story because they come, if you could have a read, they came to the wrong conclusion. Although they didn't want to make mistake. You know, because they said that it was some bacteria you can transport like by blood and whatever. But it's interesting when you have some research and you get to the conclusion, and there was no interest that there should be like a misunderstanding or there should be wrong, but they came to the wrong conclusion. Because they had some limitation at that time. They couldn't really do what's called a proper research. Because sometimes you could do, and you decide to make a research about some specific area and topic, and you do it, and then in the end you will be unhappy. Because you will realize, okay, whatever I have done, I have not done it properly. I cannot find actually the real answer to the problem which why I started that. So it was interesting that you see like the disease was caused by bacteria, which was completely wrong. But that was, of course, there was some good things. They started some medical school, whatever. But just to have the idea, you know, like usually for students when they are doing their master degree research, well, it's quite simple research, not very much demanding. But still, you should be happy with your research when you conduct it, when you finish that research, that the conclusions or the findings or the results you got, you are happy and satisfactory with them. Because those people here, I don't want to mention the names, they were the best researcher at that time. At the time when science was actually starting. Science as a research, I don't know, do you have any specific point in, how to say, in the human history where you could really say, well, at that point of time in our human history, the research or scientific work has started, you know? That there is no more like you know, like a wrong conclusion. So imagine these were the best researchers at that time, and then they came to the, how to say, they came to the conclusion of some results, but it was shown out later on that it was actually wrong. Wow. That's not easy to accept. And you see, even like here, there is one name, Christian Ekman, which is actually, it's going to show later on. And we want to skip because it's too much information. If I could. Yeah, he actually got the Nobel Prize. It took about like 30 years later to discover what was really the actual cause of that disease. It takes time. And it takes, you know, like many efforts and many different strategies to find out the real answer, something to the solution. So just have a look, like he was, and that's how actually these vitamins, you know, like started and everything. It's quite an interesting story because to show how at some point of the time, even what it's called the best researcher couldn't discover the real cause of something which was important, especially for this life. So, you know, it was related to the rice, which is important, and they discovered why with such a rice. And you see how they got, if you have a read, you see how they actually discovered what was the problem. Like by feeding chickens with the rice, they actually discovered that could be the problem. First, Japanese thought, like he also provided, he thought that there is not sufficient amount of meat in the diet, they thought at that time, you know? Because, you know, like mainly it was rice, you know, like rice-based diet, and they thought about meat, so you could have different ideas what is the answer, but we don't want to get too much into that. But that's how it started. Vitamins, you know, so important. Vitamin A, the first vitamin, you know, related to some work, and it started when it started and how it was actually discovered. What was the real cause? What was the real problem? And I just want to maybe to try you to understand that research is actually probably, I have to say, most demanding intellectual or any type of work possible. A research. Of course, you have a different like levels or categories of research, but any research work is really, really demanding. To find the answer, whatever why is something happening, it's not easy, and you are not always, how to say, sure of your success. Okay, and this is great. And I like that photo because I was present and that at that time I used to like to go to the World like Congress, and this is well known like Crop Science Congress International, like the scientists, imagine that, from the researchers from all over the world, and actually at that Congress, that was the, how to say, invited speaker and everything about this golden rice. So it was in 2000, And I know it's still actual, you know, golden rice, you could hear, but, and it's the same idea, you know, like, okay, let's make this rice with more carotenoids, you know, like whatever. And maybe, what's happening? Why 20 years later, still, we don't have golden rice with all the technology advancement and everything. And it was on Time magazine, you know? Like, wow. And see the title. That title at that time, maybe, okay. And now I don't know, I'm not sure. Like, is it really like it will be adequate or so golden rice. And just to show you a little bit, see, very simple how it all started in agriculture. So agriculture is human activity. We know that humans, at least 10,000 years on planet Earth, at least in this form, the first settlement and whatever. So, and agriculture in general always related to any human endeavor, any human activities. And see, this is one of the examples, like the first, like research. What is that research? Anybody could do that, you know? You see what he has done. He just measured like the weight, how the weight of this bucket and the soil and the plant, and how this plant grows, because they don't know how the plant grows. In these like Middle Ages, or in 16th or beginning of 17th centuries. So we call also that research. Such a simple experiment, just weigh something before and after, just to say how much it's something like how does it grow and like that. And this is like the most common, this is like a standard in Europe. We considered him like a father of the first serious, like, let's say, like a science or research book related to agriculture. Liebig. There are so many Liebig, like, institutes or whatever, like, and, like, you see, agriculture and physiology, when it was published not so long ago, okay? And we consider this name the father of the modern, how to say, agriculture chemistry. The origin and everything. But you see, he also had some theories which were completely wrong. He was the best scientist, best researcher at that time, imagine, the best scientist, best researcher at that time, and still he had some theories which proved to be false, not true. Like here. You see that in the red. Just read it, please, red text, and you will see, like, really he thought about that. At that time. That's completely wrong, but, you know, at that time he thought in that sense. So, and you see that's also we have something, this is humus theory, which was also wrong, mineral theory, anyway. So just also one of the theory which was also wrong, with related, sorry, like with the soil science, and so just to fully understand the complexity of what we called research work. It's something which is not, that's the main idea. It's not easy, so that's the reason why you need critical thinking. So we don't want to get too much detail into that, but I want to show you like what is called like the first, you see the beginning of agriculture research. And this is like the first, like, was actually in the France, but I was happy to actually live in this building. It's actually a manor, And you see, you hear the number when actually we think about starting agriculture research. So it was around the mid of the 19th century. So about, let's say, 200, a little bit less, 200 years ago, it was started research in agriculture. And you see, like, he was a student of Liebig. He came and he started this, the most, at the world level. This is the most well-known agricultural station in the world. Today it's called Rotherstedt. Rotherstedt Research. It's about 30 kilometers north of London, and it's like when you get all, like, you know, like sometimes we talk about the most important, most well-known agronomist in the world level. There's name the most important agricultural station in the world. That's the station, and it's called today like Rotherstedt Research, like 30 kilometers north of London. And this is the most recognized field in the world, most well known. The same, it's within that Rotherstedt Research, which started in 1842-43. Why is the most important? Because you see, almost, like, why not 200, but 180 years ago, they started like first experiments on wheat, on winter wheat, because for them it's winter wheat. And why they started these experiments? Because actually English, who dominated the world, they were importing some fertilizer from Chile, nitrogen, first nitrogen fertilizer, and they wanted to test it. And they tested it, of course, on some, let's say, grass crop, and the most important crop at that time was, of course, winter wheat for the Western civilization and like that. So that's the experiment started, and unfortunately it was not started as it should, because 108 years ago we didn't know all what we should know about the science. So you can see here there are different strips across. You know what's the difference in color? It's all the same crop, wheat. What do you think? I'm sorry, just a little bit interaction. What is the difference in color? Huh? Please help me a little bit not to talk so much.
Ya, kenapa ada perbedaan warna itu ya? Kalau teman-teman bisa kasih pendapat, bisa sekali. Ada yang hijaunya lebih pekat, ada hijaunya lebih terang.
Okay, I want to try to answer this question, but basically I'm not farming field.
So even in rice, if this was rice, what was that?
In my opinion, there is a gradation between like the age of the field, like it more greener rather than in the middle. Like there are some reason and many minor things why it could be happen. It's like from the maybe the water or the sunlight. So that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So there are two strips on the right where you have this yellow or lighter green all away, and then there is one strip across, like light green compared to the dark green. And that's the reason why, two reasons why this field is the most well-known field in the world. Scientists from all over the world come to that field to take the soil samples. So from all over the world, they come to this field just to take soil sample. They are not interested in crop. But now we talk about crop a little bit because we want to see such, this is large difference in color. You have this light green. So you see these two strips. They never received any fertilizer during the 108 years. No fertilizer at all, any. So that's the reason why the color is lighter. Because this plant in our temperate region, what's missing is just nitrogen, okay? So this is like nitrogen deficient crop. The only problem is just nitrogen here, and also on that strip across the field. So this is just, that's in temperate climate of the world. Nitrogen as a fertilizer always is a problem for any grasses because they don't fix nitrogen from the air. Anyway, this is the field, and they are unhappy. The first agricultural research station, because field, in that it was arranged, and there is not a replication. You will see why we need a replication in any research. So the biggest issue for this field is actually it was not, it's one specific term, randomized, or there is no replication, which we need. Why we need that? Because, for example, like the colleague said, the student said, toward this side of the field could be lower or whatever. There could be problem with the water, or there could be some other problem because any field is not really unified or uniform. Uniform across. So we always have differences because of some local micro depression or anything. So the most well-known field in the world, it doesn't satisfy the basic criteria for research. There is no replication because at that time they didn't know what is some, how to say, requirement for conducting field research. So it was slowly developing into a quality research. And I think so, yeah. And this is one of the, we consider a father of, you heard maybe this name? You heard that name? Do you remember something else related to this name? Yeah, he grows a pea, and he was quite okay, but maybe on this post stamp, maybe you can recognize what was really his occupation. Imagine, he was a priest. Nobody learned him how to make or conduct a research, and he made the basic principles of genetics of. Imagine that. He was not educated formally like you are. He was not educated in that, and he was a priest, and he made not well known, just he made the fundament for genetics to how we get this inheritance from our parents, or some first idea how we actually get these different genes and how we dominant and recessive, He was very clever, and you see, one of the interesting point is he published his paper, of course he was a Czech, but publishing in German. And he published his results as early, you see then but nobody read German at that time. English were dominant. Even science, so everybody ignored. Of course, you couldn't get to that journal because it was somewhere in mid-Europe, Availability information, our human history, changed in the last 20 and 30 years more than anything. because of this information, which for you, like whatever I need, you just Google it. I don't need, because probably in 20 years there will be a problem with the higher education and many systems because of this information availability, you know. But we don't want to get into that. So you see, his paper was translated into English just at the beginning of the, modern or 20th century, you know. And then actually we realized that we got to these results, conclusion, almost half a century, like 40 years earlier. And he was a priest. And he conducted serious research. So you could have some idea that how to conduct that. You need sometimes formal education, you don't need. And you can make a quality research, like even though you are not maybe formally educated, but if you understand basic principles and practices of agriculture research. So why was he very successful? He made, how to say, meticulous, or he had like a good planning, good plan, good strategy. Like he picked up the appropriate material and the appropriate methods to test it. You know, like he chosen something which was visible, very easy to, at that time, you know. There was no like microscope, nothing, you know. Very, like, what could he measure? Like, only thing, like, we can count, he could count and see. By his eyes, not by the help of some other instruments and like that. So, and I just want to point out one thing, like even when if you read older, you are not interested. I like to also read older papers about anything. It doesn't matter. He was really the first one. He used numbers. He used numbers because numbers are everything. Without numbers, before that, it was only descriptive. Somebody would say, this is important, but not explaining how much important. Like in your life, mostly you will hear maybe even your like family, parents, whatever, they will tell you, oh, this is important. Or you will tell your friend or whatever, this is important for your life, or this is whatever, but how much important? Because everything is important in my life. I have to pick up, I have to choose more important thing from the less important. I cannot choose everything in my life. Even when you maybe choose like the subject topic for your thesis, you know, like master thesis, whatever, you have to make a decision. What I'm gonna choose, pick up. So for that reason, so it's important to have like numerical description. And you see, please have a look, just read a little bit, and these are the basics which are actually, it tells everything. What is research? How is it done? So there is no science without research. You have to tell everything in your life, whatever, it should be supported by your research. That's science. You cannot have opinion, okay? There is no opinion. There is no even like nothing. Like in science, it's quite simple, because when you want to have like idea what you should eat in your life, what you should do in your life, what is the choices in your life, it will be great to know what will be the result, you know. For example, if I could have another life, I will probably choose something else, because I couldn't, you know, at that point of my life, I couldn't make a proper conclusion about everything which was important for me and like that. So just these, you see, this here. I very simply go to my students and say, you see, I go to the field and I show them one cultivar of any plant and the other cultivar of the same plant species, you know, like let's say rice. And there are two cultivars of rice, and from the experience or from the growing, and like we know that this one is better yielding than this one. But to explain the mechanism behind, it becomes very difficult, and we always don't know the answer, even at this point, like of the development of agriculture research, not always. But we know the results, and we are sure that this is better yielding cultivar than that one, even though maybe sometimes we cannot explain everything why is that. But we should always try to understand why, because then we will make better breeding programs, develop better cultivars and even better cultivars and like that. So, and this is science. Science is not making any new rules and regulations, just discovering how everything around us is working. Everything, whatever we do. Just to discover what are the law, like how is it, we call that causal, cause and effect relationship. If we do that, the result will be like that. If we do something like other, the result will be different. And this is, so now we go more like into, somebody conducted some research, you know, and if you want to have a look, and this is from education. You see the title, just to show you, like basic and applied research. Basic research, then you just want to learn like fundamentals of some principles, like photosynthesis. You know, you learn how photosynthesis work, and then you want to see the differences, applied sciences, photosynthesis in maybe some different plant species like C3 or C4, whatever. The idea behind, we don't want to get involved, is that you will read this research and you will see that there is just one number in this abstract, and this number is like that 15, when it's like counting that they conducted research on 15 universities, but when they are expressing the results, they don't use number. They just say, you see this general expression, just to show you, you know, this is what we don't like in science. The expression like this, academic expression, basically, tend to receive. You know? Sorry? Tend to receive. So because it's not numerically, like it's not quantitative, like it's difficult. What does it mean, tend? Or what does it mean, like when somebody tell you this is important, but like previous example, how important or whatever. So, and this was like relatively new research, you see. Cited, people read this, cited, and what he's saying, something that we already know, not really, he doesn't give any number. Like, you know, like very simple, imagine, if you eat more, you will be more, you tend to have like higher belly. Wow, that's something new, you know. Imagine that. We can conduct that research. If you eat more, you will, but how much? I'm interested in how. Maybe if it's a small belly, that's okay. But if it's a big, like, maybe I'm concerned. So when you ever read that there's just description without number, numbers are so important for the better understanding. Okay. And see what I like in life, that you implement some information you learned into your life. In agriculture or any area, social sciences, to understand how people, how community, how we actually deal with everydays. I read a lot, I like very much sociology, to learn about human society, you know, how people like, and many different areas of sciences, But this one is good because it shows that, you see, agriculture is here. Sorry, again, it's small dot. So agriculture is, that's interesting. It's one of the most what we call applied sciences. Together with, because there are so many sciences which are like fundamental, in agriculture we usually try to make some appliance, make some use of what we do. So that's good for the society, for the service, and like that. And just, you know, this is the one of the biggest, how to say, the biggest invention in agriculture sciences, you know, hybrid, maize or corn. And it started actually quite accidentally. First, it did some fundamental research from some botanist who was not really interested in any appliance. He was not interested to that science should be applicable to the field level, you know. And then it became one of the biggest invention in agriculture area. So today I will just share with you one thing which, as for me, as imagine this, if you try to listen today as a university lecturer, as a person who is, my life, my teaching, my lecturing is based on research, not just on like some theoretical knowledge. And today I have the biggest problem with this. You know why? Do you have some idea why I have a problem with this? No, with industrial, you understand what does it mean industrial? Because when we hear about research, we usually think about universities, okay? You know? University, research, university. Just research center, or like, and then we have this industrial research. For example, like vaccination for COVID, or any research, and now we get back to agriculture. I have a problem when I have this industrial research, because why? You know why is the problem? They could give you the result, but never how they get to that result. And we don't know. And these are like, they will implement new technology. And why we don't know? Because they don't publish information about that. So you just see a result, and you don't know actually how they get to that result. That's becoming, not even now, is my biggest problem. And in 10 years, it will become even bigger problem, because they come with a new solution, new technologies, new products, but they don't want to publish the like research or methods, how did they get it. The way how they, like for any product. And because before, like, you know, it was all great, you know, research at university, but now we have this big agriculture company, big industries, they also have research, and they are not interested to publish. Why? Because other will actually take their technologies and their results and like that. So even like science, it's not like always easily, science work or research easily available. And just one thing, like timing, you know, like timing is everything in life. You realize that. Timing, to be at the right place at the right time. That makes usually the difference, timing in general. And I like this expression. And I just want to, this is that's a little bit, one of the highlights for this presentation. This is just we should always, whatever we want to think about some, or know about specific topic, we should always have a look on the previous work. What was already done in that, whatever we do, like research or something of the interest, we should not ignore or like the previous research and ideas and conclusions and findings, whatever was discovered in any area. So I like scientific writing. You have a look. It's not like writing in everyday's life, not like newspapers, not like any book, any novel. So scientific writing, it's too much, but it should always be easily understood. You know, you don't read it something if you don't actually understand it and like that. And you see, yeah, it's a kind of these ornamental plants, you know, like ornamentation. Like, we don't want any unnecessary information, just what is important for that subject matter. And this is more like, these are some basic principles. Do you understand something like the basic principle of any truth in your life, like based on science? When you read something, that's some like statement or truth, they should provide you with information how they get to these results, information, the conclusion, whatever. Because if you want to check it, is it really working? You should like reproduce or repeat the experiment and get the same result. Like whatever for example, if you're testing one cultivar rice is better yielding than the other, it should be like you repeat this experiment and the result should be the same and like that. Before, at the beginning, even in science, they will just inform about the results, but material and methods or how you get to some result or conclusion, it's very important. So this is more like demanding. So I will just have a look. You see the structure. Please just have a look when the real science or science based on research started. Here you have some also number, you see. So around the Second World War, like let's say 80 years ago, we could consider that science or research work which also include publishing, you know, you have to write what you have done, research, have become standardized. That it has a standardized structure. It's called like IMRAD. You see, please just, you see introduction, material and methods, results, and discussion. So that's something like a standard. That's something like a standard in any scientific or research work. And just, we are going toward the end. You know, title about any topic. I will just give you a few examples, and that's one interesting title. When you want to read something, I don't know whether you ever read maybe most of you, I'm sorry, like any journal and any journal article or any paper, any small information. The first thing which we actually gives us the most information is the title. Even the movie or I don't know, like anything in everyday's life, the title matters. Like it gives you the basic and most important information what I'm going to, because then it follows with the full read. And you see here there's some basics, and just want to show you, like, you see that there's a title and it tells everything what is about, what somebody has done. You know, like it's also like you heard about sorghum, you know, it could be used here he's mentioning also dry land, and then some agronomic and environmental factors which are important, and like everything, and it says everything. And in the end, and I just want to show you, this is like from American, it doesn't matter, but just to show you, there are numbers. He gives numbers. How much is something important? He is not just telling this is better yielding. He's not just saying this cultivar of rice is better yielding than the other one. He gives the number 12, 20%, 1%, or whatever. So the numbers is also like in everyday life, you know, like numbers are important. Explain me how much is actually important, whatever you want to talk about. So this is a good structure, like, and just maybe to show you different colors and see, but okay, this is some abstract I chosen, like there is no number, and you will see when you read it why there is no number, you know, like, except for 15, you know, like where it was kind of like how many countries in general. And you see, today I talk about what I want to point out, introduction into any subject. How I could get you interested in this subject about principles and practicing of research in agriculture, even though you maybe never conducted any research previously. And to do, it's very simple, right? Like to do any serious research on anything, even on your, I don't know, on your friend maybe or whatever, you just have to read all the information available or understand everything related to that subject matter. So it's usually okay, and maybe you heard about hypothesis, so like it's great when whatever you want to do as your research for your thesis, after you read information, you should have a clear idea what will be the outcomes or results of your research, whatever you do. Even before you start your research, you should have some idea what will be the result of your whatever you do. So I don't, okay, and okay, I will, and just to, I want to end to finish with one a kind of contrasting or conflicting information. You see, like, what's good title for any topic? And here you can read a few titles which are not too long, for example. You see, from the colleague, from the soil scientist, you know, like, just to, please, just try to follow, because after that follows one of the, a little bit conflicting. So I'm talking like, you know, there's the basic principles, like he's saying what he's studying, and even in the location area. Then also technology by two-weed cultivars, he's saying, and then a question, you know, like that's a different, and now it's what is conflicting to all, like what say here, you know, was the first with the fewest, like to use as few words as possible. Can you just go? And then I will give you the And this is one of my last paper, and I'm talking about to make a short title and have a look. This is almost like, I don't know, like, why is probably one of the longest title? Yeah, it's like, I don't know, what is this? Because I'm teaching about something, about some principles, and then in practice, I'm teaching you principles, and then in practice, I give you an example like, how many words in this? Like 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's probably one. Really, it's a kind of conflicting. You know, somebody who is giving you like the principles, and then practice. Like this is one of my paper recently published, and I made such a long title. Wow. It's contrasting, you know, like you don't feel. But really, can you think what word could be maybe deleted or omitted, or do you have any idea? I don't know, have you ever heard of this grass? It's just grass. Italian ryegrass, I don't know. It's one grass, and you see like why is it? And there's so many information in the title, and why, you know, why so? Why are teaching us some principles, and what was the principles is at the top, you know? Good title with the smallest number of words which is possible to indicate what, and then I give you this. What to finish off this part, like we will see whether we continue or no. At the first point, it looks conflicting, contrasting to my principles, but it's not really. To be honest, it took me about several days to figure out, because I had maybe like 100 different ideas, and really in the very end, this is the fewest word possible. It's not common, but it happens. Usually my title is not that half of this or whatever, but this was one type of research where actually I followed the basic principle with the fewest word, but unfortunately in the very end, still there were over 20 words. And you will see, I know you are too young, but any serious researcher who has a look at this title, such a long title, he will maybe get tired just at reading the title, you know. At the first point, it looks contrasting, conflicting, and whatever, but in the real sense of the meaning, I could actually explain each and every word in this title, why it had to be inside this title. Yeah, actually, yeah, I have that. It's a good example. So now, this was like just introduction, which is a part into like some student in class activity. And in that activity, I have some idea, but I'm not sure whether I will discuss with Professor Jansen. I prepared something like a working example, like in class activity where you will be in the group. Like, can you go just one more slide? Like, next one, sorry. You know, like, anyway, you will get some paper material. It's not much, like just on the, it's just to show you the idea, and then I will, no. Imagine, just to have a look. I know that you are too young, but imagine this. You see this sheet, it's one sheet of paper, And it's almost like let's say half full or half empty or whatever. And you see how much is the text approximately. And imagine that just based, this is called introduction, like this first part of my workshop, which was, and based on this text, half of the page, somebody conducts a research on some specific subject matter, whatever. Imagine half of the page, which you can actually read out in what, like 15 minutes, even less, half of the page only. And it gives all the, how to say, rational, like explanation why I conducted some research. Just half of the page. And then the idea was you read it, even though you don't, one is example on rice, the other one was on some, it's very similar. The idea was when you read it, could you make a title? You understand? You read it and you try to understand what is the topic of this. And just propose a title, not a long one, as I made, but just propose a title. And it's actually, it's not difficult because English, as I told you, scientific English is very simple, just few words, they don't use ornamental words. It's very simple like that. But I will discuss with, it's usually intended that you work in groups, 2 or 4, and then you discuss if you want to make just one thing, title. What is the, I read it half a page, and I just want to make what I read, like I want to make a title, what is this text about? But I will discuss with, now we will make a break with Professor, and I will discuss with Professor Jansen whether it will actually be like, yeah. Yeah, because it's, I know it's, maybe it's Ramadan and everything. It takes about, I have to be, yeah, I know. I can, because it usually I give about half an hour to discuss to group, and I'm not sure what the time is.
Yeah, I think it's okay lah. Setengah jam kita baca itu sedikit. I think group in 4 people. Too much? Too many? 4 is okay. Yes, but it should be one. You could read English a little bit. It's okay. It's just a practice for us. It's latihan ya. Jadi just read it. So just half of hours we got like 10 minit baca. Lalu kemudian we just try to arrange buat judulnya apa kira-kira in English. Okay? 10 minutes discussions and then we can discuss it after that. So is it okay?
Again, please imagine this. It's half of the page, probably maybe some English words, and just one thing. Could you make a title? What is this text about? And it's on rice, so it's, how to say, relatively close. So each and every group could just make one proposition for the title on, and you have about 15 or at least 20 minutes for the 10 minutes.
10 menit ya.
Like, I'm sorry, but just kindly, when you read it, try to be like more active in a way that when you read some words which you find it's important, just underline for yourself. You know, you see that some words are repeating. You know, so that's maybe important, or like underline some words. These words will maybe help you to make. So just make. What would you propose as a title for this relatively short text of, and maybe if there are some words you don't understand, then Google it. Yeah, of course. I'm sorry, there should be maybe a few, but it's about rice. Yeah. So the main idea of this activity is when you read some text that you try to understand what was this text about, you know, like what is the title, what the author of this text is trying to interpret or to convey the message to yourself. What is he talking about? Like, so it helps you because it's rice. And just focus what else, what does it, what he's going to do research, and he conducted some research with some title, and what is this subject matter, what is the main topic of his research. Try to, so that's like a little bit critical. You read something and you give your opinion, what is the title of that text? Sorry, I also have one maybe interesting question for you. While you read it, do you understand this rice? Where is it grown? In which area? Do you get idea in which country this rice about this text is grown? Do you understand? Like when you read it, it's somebody talks about rice actually, about rice, but also I would like you maybe to suggest me, did you get the idea, is it Indonesia or some other country? Where is it? You know also, okay? Just to make it more maybe interesting for you, like first you want to write some title, what is this text about, but at the same time make some, let's call lateral thinking. Okay, where rice? Where is this rice? Which country? Is it mentioned any country in the text? You know, like that makes it quite, because interesting, maybe more easy for you just to feel more comfortable. You make notes, that's good. Hello again. So we are almost to finish, so don't. Thank you very much for your effort and all your propositions, and some of them now you could see them on slide. And we will just go through some of them, and I will make a comment in general, and then in the very end we will see the real answer, because just to show you. So you realized some things, like you see half of page paper about something, and it gives you the reason why somebody has done some research. So when we have a look on most of the proposition, we see that there's a problem with this, what is called VD rice, you know? VD or red rice. And the reason why I ask you to get a little more attention to the country, because you realized it was in the United States of America, it was in America, and it's problem there and in some other parts of the world, but not in Indonesia, yeah? Do you have actually idea, you know, rice? But this VD and red rice. So it's okay, but it's not really much problem here because of the different cropping systems, you know, like manual or whatever. So we all have clear idea that this VD or red rice is a problem. And in most, you see this proposition of Tytler, you say that. So you all recognize that the subject matter or material is VD or red rice. But what? You know, that's a problem. And so what we're gonna investigate? So like when we have any weed, and it always compete with the crop, any weed, you know, that's a general principle, you know. We don't want as in agriculture, agronomy, in any crop, we don't want any weed. That's simple principle. So what we're gonna investigate if we have a weed in a crop, probably the effect of that weed on the crop, which is just common or like rice in our sense. And then I'm like happy that some of you also recognized in which direction, you know, what maybe it will be in addition, you know. In the first proposition, somebody mentioned still nitrogen, because he realized when he was reading, you know, like somebody mentioned nitrogen in the text. Yes, did you saw like nitrogen, and most of other also in the second, you know, third proposition also nitrogen. So we see in three propositions there is nitrogen also as important, something to be investigated, to be included in the research. And it's like, I believe, like you recognized, maybe something, I don't know, like most of you, what do you think still in some examples, like here, you see, two examples toward the very end, it's also cultivar. So in the text you can find something about, yes, cultivar, and it's, so we know that these are important things that were like a part of this research. VD rice, maybe nitrogen, maybe some cultivar of what? Of rice. And anything else in this proposition? Like sulfur. But all of you, I'm happy you recognized, and I fully agree, even with cultivar, because it's mentioned at the end of the first paragraph, like that also cultivar could be important for this VD rice. So just to give you, this is one of the research published in today. It's almost like the journal with one of the highest impact index. That means like a rather important journal. It was published, if you have a look, because it's mentioned America, United States. So most likely it was published by American, which who they are happy to have English as a mother tongue, like native language, but in America or like in the United States of America, by good scientists in the southern part or like that. So you see how you can recognize what is this topic or research or text about, and all these propositions are, let's say, they recognized the main material or methods or something that is going to be investigated. VD rice, nitrogen, and maybe cultivar. So now, if you could open, please, just have a look once again. I told you it's a good paper published by American, and now if you could open another PowerPoint presentation, we will have a look on the original title, because now you can find this paper on the Google, like easy, like so. Just open. There's another presentation. Open, yeah, here, and see the title. This is original title. You just Google it. And it's one of kind of very simple, I could say maybe too simple a title or whatever, but you can Google it and you will see he's talking like rice and VD rice, competition between them, for what? For nitrogen. But just not cultivars, okay? Although I fully agree with you that you mentioned cultivar as a reason that maybe that should be in the title. Because in the text, he's mentioning that different cultivars could have a different effect. And just see, this is called like descriptive title. He's just saying what he investigated, VD and common like normal rice. And for the competition, for what? For nitrogen. And just for nitrogen and nothing else. Because weeds compete also for other like factors such as light, it could be also water, any other, also other nutrients. But he focused his research just on nitrogen. And you see now, you see the main objective. And you can get a clear idea whether he used more cultivars or not, and how little about the methods, because it's nitrogen is the focus. But you recognize what is important, like what was the topic of this research, what were the factors investigated, and so you see how you as students, most of you, like before even graduation, when you could read some paper about some topic, and you could have your own like critical thinking, what maybe should be the title or not. And I fully agree that because he was talking about cultivars, why he was talking about cultivars if he's not investigating different cultivars, There's no reason for that, because and I fully agree with your propositions. So thank you very much for a good finish of a very difficult, subject matter and workshop, and by the visiting professor. Again, I kindly apologize for a little bit difficult, subject matter. I would like to support you in your student or research life to be really a good student or good researcher. And very simple suggestion or comment or advice is before you start any research or something related with your investigation in your life, you just make a good preparation, good introduction into your subject matter, that you have to learn what was already achieved in that area, so you could make a better, even let's call it proposition, research proposal, and so your research could be a better quality one. So I'm moving toward the end. I'm taking this opportunity to wish you really a good, how to say, academic and other research performances. All the very best with your health in your life, and hopefully we will have the opportunity maybe to meet again. Thank you very much, and I apologize. Bye.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Zlatko. It is very interesting point from Professor Zlatko about how we can understand the basic research, the principles and practices about research, as the research is need time, efforts, and strategic. And we also learn how to build a critical thinking about special things like research, which also needs intellectual activity as well. So yeah, professors, I think we have been at the end of our programs, and to close this program, we would like to have a photo shoot together, to take a picture together with all the students as well. So we would like to ask the students to please come to, mari kita ke depan, kita foto bersama.